Ari Rosenbaum here with another fun-filled episode of that 401k podcast. This week's topic, we're going to talk about 10 things that every 401k plan sponsor should be doing to stay on the right side of ERISA. I always enjoy writing these top 10 lists, so I hope you enjoy this episode. Of course, first things first, go to that 401k site.com for information on all our events. We got Milwaukee plans pretty soon. In a few weeks, we should hope to have a date for the virtual conference. And then, this is mid-July. Hopefully by August, we'll have the MLB schedule up. Hopefully the NHL schedule may be up too. And see where we're going to have some events in 2026. Hoping for another Vegas conference. We'll see what happens. I mean, listen, it's quite the tensus, as they say, when you develop a schedule and see where you could get people to attend and whatnot. So we're looking at something very, very nice, and I got some ideas if we do another Vegas conference to add a different component to it, which should be interesting that we're working on. Hopefully the dates match. But anyway, Milwaukee, September the 5th, Friday. Please sign up. We'll get you the details of the athlete that we're going to have. We're working on it and working on getting more speakers and more plan providers for the event. Anybody interested, obviously, it's $500 to sponsor and just the sponsor, and then $1,500 to speak. It's no secret how much we charge for these events. So go to that 401ksite.com for information. And of course, all our articles, blog posts, and whatnot. So let's get to the topic at hand. When I first started writing 15 years ago for my own firm, I did a lot of top 10 lists. And, I've updated those articles. And I'm like, it's been a while since I did a top 10 list a la David Letterman, what plan sponsors can really do. So, when you sponsor a 401k plan, it's just not, like giving out like a shiny benefit to help employees save for retirement. It's a really important role. I always joke, I always joke about when I worked at a TPA firm and the big perk that, employees used to argue about, not about the health insurance or the 401k plan that they shifted to insurance company platform, which kind of ticked me off because it was on a Fidelity platform. But the only time they ever argued was over the free milk for the Keurig machine. But it's an important role to have a 401k plan. It can cause some serious liability, and I've been in this business long enough to see plan sponsors, getting into trouble. This isn't about trying hard. They just gave out these certificates for the people on the Board of Education where I live in Oceanside, and I jokingly posted that these were participation trophies. You don't get a participation trophy for being a plan sponsor and a plan fiduciary. The Department of Labor is not going to recognize you very well for trying hard. They care about whether you follow the rules, document your decisions, and acted in the best interest of your participants. The good news, you don't have to be a legal scholar or an ERISA geek to do this right, but you have to take the job seriously. And like I said, this is a top 10 list. I think it's important for plan sponsors to embrace their fiduciary role because they can't really escape it. You can hire 338, you could hire 316, but you can never really fully eliminate your liability. Yeah, you could hire 338, delegate the fiduciary responsibility, but you hired a guy, and if the guy's terrible, it's not going to absolve you of any liability. I've sat across from too many plan sponsors who thought they were protected because, the salesperson used fiduciary. And then when you look at the agreement, it doesn't really, the contract didn't exactly mirror the pitch that was told in the meeting. You're signing 5,500, approving fees, making plan decisions, you're a fiduciary and you got to own that role, own it, own that position. And it's important not to fall for shiny objects and false security. I've seen too many fiduciary warranties and nonsense out there. There's a cottage industry out there of people trying to sell peace of mind in a bottle, and it's really snake oil. It doesn't really help at all. I mean, ERISA bonds are mandatory, but they protect the plan. not you as a plan sponsor. And fiduciary insurance, it's good as the policy language and claim history. Having been sued for fiduciary liability at first, I was personally sued once because I, succeeded the fiduciary for on a plan that he didn't steal from. And, they knew that we had fiduciary liability insurance, and at one point, Carrie didn't want to cover me. And that was not fun. So that was quite the tensus, as they say, and you have to really read the fine print on these warranties. Most of all the time, it's worthless. It doesn't really cover the decisions you actually control, like investment selection or fee oversight. I mean, a buddy will always pointed out many years ago, and one of these days, maybe when he retires, I'll say that he came up with the term, but he said, insurance companies are in the business of insuring risk, and if they're giving these fiduciary warranties out there, what are they trying to say what they're insuring? They're not insuring anything because there is no risk. And that's true, because the fiduciary warranties only protect plan sponsors for the broad range in investment requirement, which is nonsense. You've never seen a plan sponsor, get sued because everybody's got like an equity fund, the balance fund, and fixed income. It's just nonsense. Quite the opposite. The problem is plan sponsors have too many investment choices, not too little. You've never seen a plan that said, well, you know what? You don't have enough funds. I haven't met a plan like that. So plan sponsors really need to do their homework. Insurance is a tool. It's not really a good strategy. It's important for a plan sponsor to keep their house in order. Documentation is their lifeline. I wish more people heard before a DUL, audit, the problem isn't usually what you did. It's that you can't prove what you did. IRS audits, you don't have a plain document, well, you're out of luck. You have no issue, you're not protected. That's a real problem. I did that PPA amendment. Well, if I don't have a copy of it, the IRS asks, treats it as if I didn't do anything. And it's important not just for plain documents, but to document everything: investment decisions, committee meetings, fee benchmarking, service provider reviews. If you can't produce minutes, notes, or analysis, it's like it never happened. It's like you said that it did. You could swear on a stack of Bibles, and it's immaterial of what you say because you can't prove. Whether it's the when the DOL or a plaintiff's attorney comes knocking, you don't want to be flipping through emails and hoping someone remembers a conversation from 3 years ago. You got to document everything, and that's what a plan sponsor needs to do. Simplicity is a compliance strategy. Complexity sells, but bells and whistles, stretch matches, Roth conversions, blah blah blah. They're not inherently better. The more complicated the plan you are, the more likely you're going to make it a mistake. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what I always say. It's not just a design principle, it's a compliance strategy. Your plan should be functional, understandable, and easy to administer. If your plan design sounds like a sales brochure, it's probably a liability waiting to happen. I've talked about, keeping it simple, stupid. Don't offer multiple loans in a plan. Don't have an entry date every day of the year. It's just you ask for trouble. Less is more. It's what's in my book, Full Circle, which is I should have pushed that at the beginning of the podcast, but that's available on Kindle and paperback now. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Steve Jobs said that best, and that holds true for 401k plans. I think it's important to vet the TPA like you would your attorney. Not all TPAs are created equal. Some are real professionals. They know risks inside out. They catch mistakes before they happen, and they make your life easier. Others, they're mill shops cranking out volume, relying on templates, and missing critical details. And I'm not talking about, the payroll providers out there. I'm talking about a TPA that this morning I'm going to have to contact the Department of Labor over, because this is the second or third plan that I've had issues where the TPA doesn't want to do the work after having been paid. When your TPA drops the ball, you get the letter from the IRS or DOL. That's why you need to vet them thoroughly. Ask for references, find out if they've ever had a plan disqualified, understand how they handle compliance testing, plan documents, and annual filings. A bad TPA doesn't cost you money, they can cost you peace of mind. Make regular reviews a non-negotiable. That's another thing. Again, I've done this plan review thing. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to pay for it. These all things, they all have to be reviewed. Your plan provider, your fees, all that kind of stuff. Sit down with your, advisor. Are these funds still appropriate? Is the fee still reasonable? Are there cheaper share classes? It's not a box to check. Make it a real conversation. Ask questions, take notes, challenge assumptions. That's what a prudent fiduciary does. Communication like it matters, because it does. One of the most overlooked areas of fiduciary liability, poor participant communication. I've always said most relationships that I've had fail in my lifetime, some important, most not so important, it fell over a lack of communication. Just recently had a hiccup with a plan, with a client where there was a miscommunication on fees, and I basically told them, this isn't working for me, brother, and tried to, resign until they came back with a satisfactory compensation package, because it was just, I agreed to something 3 years ago, and it's no longer working for me. The job was too stressful, and it's actually not an ERISA matter. I've never had an ERISA matter stress me to the point where I was going to quit as an attorney. It's the first time I came this close in 15 years of business of firing a client outside of the TPA from Atlanta who bilked me out of $40,000 in fees that I had to sue. But, communication matters. Poor participant communication hurts you as a plan sponsor. You need to have clear enrollment meetings. Use plain language. Make sure the Recruiter's website is easy to navigate. And, make sure participants have their questions answered. Say no when you have to. You can't be popular. I've learned that. I was never going to be popular. Being a fiduciary isn't about being popular as well. Participants will somehow ask for things they're not entitled to, hardship withdrawals without documentation, early distributions that don't qualify. I'll never get 20 some odd years ago fighting with a plan sponsor, a plan participant who wanted to make a distribution even though there's no hardship and nothing allowable. You have to be adults in the room. You have to learn to say no. That's just the nature of it. That is just the nature of it. And there's nothing you can do about it at all. So it's important to not, have the opportunity where you can, say no and avoid issues, because that's a true problem that you need to make sure that you don't get in trouble for. I think it's important not to lose sight of the mission. The 401k plan is not a trophy. It was there for a reason. It's not a perk to handle a benefits package. It's a retirement plan. It's important not to forget that every decision should serve that goal. Helping your employers retire with dignity. You got to push back on, high-cost funds, gimmicks, and constantly asking whether the plan is working for your people. If you're making decisions because they're easy or because the vendor made a great pinch, you're off course. Ask yourself, whatever you're doing, is this helping someone retire better? Next, build a team you can trust. That's simple, or, it seems that way. Treat the plan like most plan sponsors go wrong by treating the plan as a side project or, for something the HR, to juggle between open enrollment, benefits fairs. A good plan requires a good team, a capable TPA, a proactive advisor, a knowledgeable risk attorney, an investment committee that actually meets. You would never run your company without financial professionals. So don't run your plan without fiduciary professionals out there. You can't roll the dice. You have to rely on on professionals and take care of these important plan issues. Next, this isn't, last but not least, this isn't, about selling fear. It's about responsibility. Many years ago, James Holland and I were on LinkedIn, and we were dealing with this guy who was not even in the business. He was like a guy working with brokers, or I think it was a recruiter or something, or job placement. And he was trying to say that we were selling fear. These were the days before fee disclosure, before the days of the rampant lawsuits and whatnot. We're not selling fear. We're selling, good fiduciary protection, good advice, good habits. I had a running joke years ago. I thought that the push for, the anti-floss stuff, the pro-floss stuff was to just, make dentists more relevant. Studies show that, people with plaque and all that stuff, it can cause health problems like heart issues. So, good fundamental fiduciary practices, by pushing it out there, isn't, we're not trying to sell fear. We're just trying to sell good fiduciary practices, which will minimize fiduciary liability, improve participant outcome, improve participant results, and improve the plan. ERISA doesn't require perfection. It doesn't expect it. It's all about the process, not that 76ers process where trust the process and they hire Doc Rivers, who doesn't, all he knows how to do is, aside from bringing the Celtics one world championship, is choking the playoffs. We don't look for perfection. We look for a process and following the process. You need to take care of, surround yourself with the right kind of help. And, the sponsors who get hurt the worst are the ones who try to wing it or assume that checking a few boxes is enough. Managing a 4-income play plan is a serious work, but it's also a powerful opportunity. You have the chance to help your employees build real retirement plan security. So, just don't play around. That's really it. We can talk about it all day long. We will always run into problems with plan sponsors that take their role seriously. And, listen, I get it. You're overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed a lot, between planning events and writing articles and writing books and trying to get my son out of Israel, where he's stuck right now. He's okay, but hopefully by the time the episode drops, he'll be home. But that's it. It's all about following the process, and it's important to be on the right side of things. And plan sponsors need to know that they have a fiduciary responsibility to be on the right side of things. So, hope you enjoyed this episode of that 401k podcast. Tune in next week for another fun-filled episode. And again, I forgot to mention Full Circle, the new book, out there on Kindle and paperback. A look at my life and the nonsense that I went through, both personal and business, and kind of, try to be an uplifting story. I'm kind of like Andy Dufresne. Had to tunnel through a lot of shit to get clean on the other side. That's what the book is all about. And of course, go to that401ksite.com for further information on Milwaukee. We'll have information on the virtual event, and hopefully, we'll see what we're going to do for 2026. And, I'm hoping for Vegas. It's been a while. We were there in 2022 at New York Hotel and Casino. If we do Vegas again, I will guarantee you this: it will not be at the New York Hotel and Casino, for a wide variety of reasons. Namely, the hotel, it's not up to snuff. We'll see what we do. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you got to do this, or this." I know it's got to be a Bonvoy MGM hotel, but we'll see what happens. Maybe the Rangers aren't going to comply with the schedule and we can't make it, but we'll see what happens. And again, tune in next week for another fun-filled episode of that 401k podcast. Take care. Bye.